Someone asked me to use one of these vlogs to explain how I learned to tailor by being in theater. Really simple. First of all, when I was in theater, I had all my general education courses fulfilled already. So I had a lot of time in my schedule. And I took every design course that I possibly could besides the acting courses. So I took costume design, lighting design, set design. And also, because the department had all these actors hanging around, a lot of times with nothing to do, that to them was free labor. Might as well put them to work. So one of the requirements for graduation was we had to fulfill so many unit requirements of time spent working in the costume shop or the scene shop, working in lighting, working on the run crews, that sort of thing. My favorite area, obviously, the scene shop. Guy, power tools, what's to figure, right? It was an easy one. I liked working in the scene shop because it was fun building some of this stuff. But that's where I learned some of the skills. For example, I have 2 decks on my home. There's a smaller one that's my front entry, and there's a bigger one over here on the side. This one I had to get a permit for because it was big enough that it required a permit from the county. I did all the technical drawings myself. I did all the drafting because I know how to do drafting. Submitted it to the county. They approved it. I paid my fee. I built my deck. Both of these decks are built like theater pieces, not like just home decks. That one over there, not a single nail is in that deck. Everything is put together with wood screws and deck screws because those hold better than nails. Nails will back out unless you use cement-coated nails. They can back out over time and things can start to fall apart. Screws won't. On this side, there are nails holding the decking in place along the what you'd call the floor, but everything else is wood screws, deck screws, and underneath things are held together by carriage bolts, nuts, and washers. I mean, it's bolted together. The reason why you do that in theater is because sometimes you have to move pieces in and out a lot. And for example, we did a 3-act play in which every act had an entirely different scene on stage. The curtain would come down and then we'd rush on stage. I was on the run crew and everything was choreographed. We knew where we had to be at exactly the right time, and the one set was disassembled and the other one was assembled. All this going on all at the same time. In less than a minute, we could pull one set down and put another set up, and the curtain would go back up again. It was so amazing for the audience to see in just such a short time. They could hear all the noise backstage. Some of it was on wagon. You could hear the wagon being rolled out as another wagon was being rolled in. But they could hear all this noise, and all of a sudden the curtain would go up. Entirely new set. The audience was so impressed that oftentimes they applauded the scene changes because they were so good. Well, with all that action, stuff had to be built strong enough to move. And plus, too, you might have action going on the set pieces themselves. There could be sword fight going on, and if there's stress on the stairs, for example, they have to be willing to take all that kind of stress. So when I built the decks on my home, they're built extremely well. They're very strong. But I learned that when I was in theater. As far as the sewing goes, because yes, I do tailor all the shirts you see in my videos. The shirt that I'm wearing now, I tailored myself. Try and find color when you go out shopping for men's clothes. You find blue, lots of blue out there, tan and brown, occasionally some green. You don't find a lot of color. Fine if you're going to go shopping. Fine if you're going to have lunch or dinner with your friends. I have my regular day wear shirts, that blues and grays and greens and blues, greens and browns rather. That's what I wear. But for videos, I want color. Here's a picture of my shirts. There's about 30 shirts hanging on those hangers, all of which I tailored myself. Look at that variety of colors. You can't find that in men's stores. You have to build your own. You have to make your own. Now, those are shirts that I don't wear other than in videos, because to me, they're not really clothing. It's not like day wear. I wouldn't put one of those on to go shopping. To me, those are costumes. That's how I think of them. I think of them as costumes. I wouldn't put a costume on to go grocery shopping. So I don't want to wear those unless I'm doing a video. It's the reason why I have all those aprons in the back. Someone told me, you need some color back there. You've got a bare wall back there. Find a way of filling that up with color. Well, I made a bunch of aprons. It was easy to do. I learned that because I was working in the costume shop, fulfilling one of those technical unit requirements. And I got pretty good at it. I learned on a Bernina industrial sewing machine. Talk about a great machine. I don't know how many thousands of dollars, $10,000, $12,000 those machines cost. Beautiful, big, powerful machines. Again, power tools, right? Great machine. I eventually got an industrial sewing machine. Here's a picture of my sewing machine. It's not a Bernina. It's a Singer. But how I got this machine was that they came to me at the end of spring term and they said, we're doing some shows in repertory this summer. We're desperate. We need a costumer, but we don't have any money. We're at the end of the budget cycle. There's no money left in the budget. If you would be willing to work and keep track of your hours, and you're willing to wait 2 or 3 months to get paid, we can pay you in the fall when we get our new budget. I said to them, I got a better idea. Upstairs, you have in storage an industrial sewing machine, an old Singer. You probably don't even know that it's there. I know that it's there because I lifted the tarpaulin that was covering it one day and I saw it. I'll work for that if you don't mind parting with it. Well, it wasn't even on the inventory. No one even knew it was there or why it was there. It was just there. Probably some instructor had brought it in 20, 30 years earlier and was using it in the teaching and left it behind, forgot it was there, or she or he didn't remember where they had left it, and it just kind of got forgotten, put in storage. No one knew why it was there. So they said, okay, we'll do it. Take the machine and work for us during the summer. We had 6 weeks to build the show. We did it in 4. It worked out really well, and they were easy shows to do. But that's how I got my industrial machine, and that's an industrial. Big 1/3 horsepower motor under the table. It's power. That's a power tool. That's a real power tool. But that's how I did it. Also, because I was taking all of these design courses, I got known for doing some of the designs. For example, in my scenery design course, I designed a full set. We didn't do the play, unfortunately. Almost. Did a full set for Elaine Hansberry's The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window. Loved that play. Did all the technical drawings, every single piece, every door, window, stair, set dressing, every flat, fully drawn out, all the measurements, everything was there. If they had wanted to do the play, they could have just built a set from my drawings. All the details were there. They thought about it. I think the design instructor had taken my designs to a faculty staff meeting just to show them what they had a designer in the department as a student. And I know one of the faculty was thinking about doing the play after she saw my designs, but she changed her mind. She was someone who, she wanted to do plays that offered a lot of roles for women, because in a lot of theater, especially like Shakespeare, we did a lot of Shakespeare, there were a lot of roles for the males, but the females didn't have as many good roles. So she would try to pick plays. In some cases, it was an all-female cast, just so that the women in the department would have an opportunity to perform on stage as well, which was a good idea. I think she had the right idea. But they knew I could do design work, and so they came to me and they asked me to design the costumes for Edward Albee's Seascape. We actually did that play. And here's a photograph of my costumes. That's actual on stage. The 2 humans, that was easy. We pulled those costumes from storage, but where are you going to find lizard costumes? Those costumes all had to be designed from scratch. And I did a fun little technique. The first thing I made were the tails, so that the actors could have the tails to rehearse in. And what I did was I made these long 6-7 foot tails and just lightly stuffed them with foam just so they would be full but not heavy. And then in the very end of the tail, I put 8 inches of chain. And then the tail would strap onto their pelvis tight. And what they learned how to do was by little movements of their pelvis, they could flick that tail around. It was light, but the chain gave it the momentum, and it would just spin right around. So in working with their tails in rehearsal, they learned to not only express themselves with their hands and their shoulders and their faces, their body movements, but with their tail movements. The tail became like an organic part of their body. It was great. And it worked so well that the department entered my costumes into the American College Theater Festival. And I won an award for my costume designs. My designs were on display for a while in the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. as part of the this festival. So I got pretty good in theater. I loved theater. I didn't want to do it as a career because you're always looking for a job. They wanted me to direct. I did some directing. They wanted me to do design, but you're always looking for your next job. And I wanted the security of knowing that I would get a paycheck every month and that I would build up something toward a retirement. I'm retired now. I've got a pension now from my job. I'm not rich. I'm not floating in money, but I'm secure and I'm satisfied. So that's why I didn't do it professionally after college. I kind of got it out of my system in college. Did all the creative work that I wanted to, but I stayed good on some of what I learned, like how to tailor. And so for my videos and my aprons, I tailor all my own shirts because it's the only way I'm going to get colors that I really want.